Larry Lobster and his first day on the reef. It was a sunny morning when little Larry Lobster woke up in his new underwater home. He had moved to the western USA only a few days ago, and today was a special day because the small lobster would explore the big coral reef for the first time. His parents had told him many stories about the colors and the vibrant marine life there. But today he would see it with his own eyes. Filled with excitement, he jumped out of his seaweed bed, cleaned his antennae and claws, packed some krill cookies for the journey, and with a cheerful snap of his claws, set off. First, he swam through a dense forest of seaweed, where sunlight wove through like golden threads. The seaweed swayed gently in the water, and tiny seahorses hid among the leaves. When Larry left the seaweed forest, he came upon a huge garden of fan corals. The corals spread out like colorful movable fans, dancing to the rhythm of the current. Here, he met a group of surgeonfish playing in the shady corners. Larry greeted them warmly. "Hello, I'm Larry Lobster, and I'm new here," called the little lobster. The surgeonfish greeted him kindly, and Larry continued his journey. Next, he crossed a sparkling sandbank, where tiny, glittering fish shone like stars in the water. Larry's claws left little traces in the sand, soon washed away by the gentle current. At the end of the sandbank, Larry reached a tunnel of glowing anemones, shimmering in all the colors of the rainbow. The anemones tickled his claws gently as he swam through. Finally, Larry arrived at his destination, a hidden lagoon surrounded by magnificent corals and teeming with various sea creatures. The colors here were particularly vivid, and the water was crystal clear. In front of him stretched a splendid coral reef in all imaginable colors. There were bright red, orange, and yellow fire corals glittering in the soft waterlight, as well as delicate, pastel brain corals with their intricate patterns. Among the corals, countless sea creatures bustled. Colorful parrotfish nibbled on the algae, their bright scales shimmering in the sun. Small clownfish played among the anemones, whose tentacles glowed in all the rainbow hues. Near the bottom, Larry saw a group of starfish slowly moving over the sand. Their arms stretched out, leaving delicate patterns in the sand. A few meters away, he watched a majestic stingray gliding elegantly through the water, gently moving its wide wings. Above him, silvery sardines swarmed in dense schools, creating a living, sparkling curtain. In a niche of the reef, Larry discovered a family of cute crabs busy building a small sandcastle. The colors, life, and diversity of this place made Larry's heart beat faster with joy. It was as if the entire beauty of the sea was gathered in this one lagoon. Here, Larry felt at home and knew that this was the most wonderful place in the whole reef. Larry swam further, marveling at the many different fish darting among the corals. Suddenly, he saw a strangely shaped fish with a square body and big, curious eyes. Around its belly, it wore a small tool belt full of interesting tools. "Hello," called Larry cheerfully. "I'm Larry Lobster. Who are you?" The square fish turned to Larry and smiled broadly. "Hello, Larry. I'm Bobby Boxfish. Nice to meet you." Larry looked curiously at the tool belt. "What's that belt for?" Bobby laughed and said, "This is my tool belt. I fix the wildest things for the reef's inhabitants. Whether broken coral houses, defective shell clocks, or clogged algae filters, I find a solution for everything." Larry and Bobby hit it off right away, and it seemed like they had found two good new friends. Bobby first led Larry to a place where sea anemones grew in all the colors of the rainbow. "Look, Larry, Bobby said enthusiastically. "These are sea anemones. They look like flowers, but they're actually animals." Larry marveled. "Wow, they're really beautiful, and they move so gently with the current." "Yes," Bobby agreed, "and if you look closely, you can see little fish darting among them. They seek shelter with the anemones." After Larry and Bobby settled near the anemones, Larry asked curiously, "Bobby, you must have fixed many interesting things. Do you have a special story you can tell me?" Bobby smiled and thought for a moment. "Yes, there's a rather extraordinary story. A few weeks ago, a large, majestic whale named Wanda came to me. She had a problem I'd never seen before." Larry's eyes widened with amazement. "A whale? What could a whale possibly need fixed?" Bobby laughed. "Well, Wanda had a huge shell amulet she wore as a lucky charm. It was very old and precious, but unfortunately the clasp had broken, and she couldn't wear it anymore." Larry nodded understandingly. That must have meant a lot to her. "Exactly," said Bobby. "So I decided to help her, but it wasn't easy. The amulet was enormous, and the clasp was almost as big as me and very intricate. I had to use all my tools and skills to fix it." "How did you manage?" asked Larry excitedly. "First, I examined the clasp closely and found that a small but crucial part was missing," Bobby explained. "I needed to find a replacement part that fit just as well. Luckily, I found an old pearl in my tool collection that seemed to fit perfectly. With a lot of patience and finesse, I managed to make the clasp functional again," Bobby explained expertly. Larry beamed. "That sounds like a real challenge. What did Wanda say?" "Wanda was overjoyed," said Bobby with a warm smile. "When I returned the repaired amulet to her, her eyes lit up with joy. She thanked me profusely and said she didn't feel complete without her amulet. To celebrate, she invited me on a wonderful journey through the deep blue ocean. We swam together through the vast depths and discovered fascinating places I'd never seen before." "That sounds like an incredible adventure," exclaimed Larry enthusiastically. "It was," confirmed Bobby, "and it showed me how important it is to help others, no matter how big or small they are. Every task brings its own challenges and rewards." Larry nodded thoughtfully. "That's a great lesson, Bobby. I'm glad we're friends." The two friends continued their journey and soon found themselves in the midst of a swarm of tiny, shiny anchovies. The anchovies swirled around them like a glittering whirlwind. Larry laughed cheerfully. "That tickles." Bobby laughed too. "Yes, it's a special feeling. The anchovies are very quick and always on the move. They often form such swarms to protect themselves from larger fish." After a while, they reached an area with huge fan corals unfolding like giant, colorful fans in the water. "Wow!" exclaimed Larry. "This looks like a magical underwater forest." Bobby nodded. "Yes, it's especially beautiful here. Sometimes seahorses hide among the fan corals. If we're lucky, we might see one." And indeed, after a few minutes, Larry and Bobby spotted a small seahorse skillfully clinging to a coral. "Look, there's one," whispered Larry excitedly. Bobby smiled. "Yes, that's a seahorse. They're very good at hiding." Suddenly, they heard a soft sobbing sound. Larry and Bobby looked around and saw a small fish sitting sadly next to a broken coral house. "What happened?" asked Bobby kindly. "My home is broken," sniffled the little fish. "A big fish swam into it, and now it's destroyed." Bobby smiled reassuringly and patted his tool belt. "Don't worry, little friend. I can help you." With skilled fins, Bobby took out various tools from his belt and began repairing the coral house. Larry helped by collecting the broken pieces and handing them to Bobby. Together, they worked until the house looked as good as new. The little fish beamed with joy. "Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Larry. You are the best friends one could wish for." Larry felt happy. "It was our pleasure to help you," he said. As the sun slowly set, casting a warm golden glow underwater, Larry and Bobby made their way back. "That was a truly wonderful day," said Larry happily. "I'm so glad we became friends, Bobby." Bobby nodded. "Me too, Larry. Exploring and helping together is much more fun, and there are so many things to see and fix in the reef." So Larry Lobster and Bobby Boxfish swam happily side by side, ready for many more adventures in the colorful, lively coral reef. They knew that together they could discover everything and overcome any challenge they faced. When they finally reached their homes, they said goodbye and promised to meet again the next day. Larry felt happy and content as he crawled into his cozy bed. He knew this was just the beginning of a wonderful friendship and many exciting days on the reef. And so ended Larry's first day on the reef, a day full of colors, discoveries, and new friendships. The little clever lobster couldn't wait to see what the future held for him and Bobby. With a happy smile on his face, Larry Lobster fell asleep, dreaming of all the adventures that lay ahead.